here as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about just 3D printing in general. Then we're going to set up an account in TinkerCad, and then I'm going to start showing you TinkerCad as a real tool. In the past, TinkerCad was okay. It was buggy. You know, you can make things on it, but I'm not sure it was very useful. Now we're using it all the time, and I really have gotten to the point that I don't see a real advantage to for the amount of time it would take to learn, say, AutoCAD Fusion. I think TinkerCAD and OpenSCAD, which is the next thing we'll show you after this, will do a lot of things we need to do. All right? And it'll get you building something. So that's where we're going to be. All right? All right. Now, make sure that's not Mr. Taylor. Okay. All right. Now, here we go. So let's talk about 3D printing. You're seeing all these things here were done with 3D printers, and they're only getting more and more famous. They're making more and more organs. It seems like every week when I read the newspaper, there's somebody somewhere making a prosthetic hand for somebody, and we've driven down the cost of prosthetic hands that were tens of thousands of dollars being driven down to somebody made one for he thought it was equivalent of a $50,000 hand. He was going to make it for less than $2,500, which is impressive. All right, there it is. There's the skull. There's the gentleman with the skull. There's a gentleman with a three. So there's a skull. If you got in a car wreck, what would happen is they would stabilize your skull, send you home, and then lo and behold, you get to come back in a month, and they then put the piece in. So you got to go back under surgery. Now they do it right on the spot, and they use a 3-day. So we get you skull repaired in hours, not weeks. They're making 3D printed cars. There's no big shock there. Doing 3D printed houses. That's coming. It's about everything you can imagine 3D printing that somebody's figuring out how to do it. So what exactly is 3D printing? How does it work? Let me move this down so you see a little bit better. And examples of 3D printing. And then a real quick brief history and open source, RepRap, MakerBots. And again, a lot's happened in 3 years. All right. Additive manufacturing. What is 3D? It's known as additive manufacturing. It's the process of making a 3D solid object of almost any shape from a digital model. All right. And that's additive as opposed to subtractive. Next year, I expect to have a CNC machine, at least a demo of a CNC machine was like, and that's going to take a chunk of something and chew it back off of it. All right. All right. So, Garen, as you got in here, we've got a couple of new folks here, so we're going over the history of 3D printing. It's stuff I know have seen before. We are going to be also doing SketchUp, but I'm going to use it. I want to show you details. There's some more tools in there. It's mainly making SketchUp quite useful. All right, now, back to it. The basic process is you design some 3D modeling software. We've been using SketchUp. We can use that. We're going to use TinkerCAD. Then we're going to learn OpenSCAD. And if time permits, we're going to do something with a program called Inkscape. These are all open source, free programs. Once it takes the software, you draw it. The software usually has on the computer, on the 3D printer, or something like G-code, or what they call a slicer software that takes your 3D image, slices it, and then reassembles it layer by layer on your 3D printer. You know, again, this is additive, not subtractive. How those layers are assembled is what kind of different 3D printers there are. And here's just some of the things you can make. This bit of art can only be made with the 3D printer. This is a jawbone made out of titanium. Yes, they print with titanium. There's a chocolate face. There's a guitar, all 3D printed. What's really interesting, since we live here, just right down the street in Fort Mill is a company, 3D Systems, that was started by this gentleman who created 3D for NASA. They realized they're going on big, long space flights. Guess what? They need a way to make tools because there's not going to be bringing extra tools, extra parts. They got to make their own stuff. And so he started using it. And what his was used to 3D printing. He developed the STL file format. That's a standard used in 3D printers. His used a laser and a dust. All right. it would take a little bit of dust, and you'd hit it with a laser beam, and then go up a level, hit it with another little bit of laser beam. 3D printers are getting faster and cheaper. The Up Plus printers, for example, the replicator I bought was $2,400. You can get that same replicator for $1,200. All right, the first one, and the people at RepRap is an open source idea that we'd make 3D printers that could make more 3D printers. People have come close. They've made a lot of 3D printers, but they can't do all of it. And that's what makes RepRap was kind of cool. It was an open source idea. Everybody used it. Well, the people at Replicator used it. They were a big advocate of that, and then they got bought, and now they're not. MakerBot, Replicator, founders are from the maker community, provide complete 3D printers, help create the Thingiverse. They're now privately held, which, make any object, the object can be as long as 5 by 5 by 5. Now that's if we were doing SketchUp. We're just finishing up what we were talking about with SketchUp. We're not going to worry about that right now. Now I want to go to TinkerCad. Now, again, don't worry, some of this is a review. We're just going to pop through it. Okay, let's get started with TinkerCad. Okay, here's the thing about TinkerCad. Like a lot of software now, it's on the cloud. And we're going to use Chrome to get it. Now, on a side note, the new Raspberry Pis, I started using one the other day. The old ones were slow, for example. Ignore lesson 18, by the way. The old ones were slow. You could do neat things with them, but you had to be kind of patient. The new one now is like using the internet on a tablet. So, unless you're going to do some really graphically intensive game or something, it'll run it. Apparently, it runs a lot of the old first-person shooter games really fast now. Got great frame rates. So to me, that's amazing. That's a $39 computer. All right, and that's because I'm looking at this case for the old-style Raspberry Pi. So here's what we're going to do: is you're going to go to Chrome. All right, and I'm going to go to Google. I'm in Chrome. I'm going to type in TinkerCad. Hopefully, you have an account. For those who have an account, I know a few of you do. Others don't. You're going to go ahead and create your free account. It'll look something like this. Wait a minute, wrong one, sorry. All right, here we go. You go to their TinkerCad site right here. Let me copy that. TinkerCad was bought by Autodesk. I'm going to be trying out one of their 3D printers, actually. So I'm really kind of fired up about that. All right. So then you're going to get free TinkerCad account, a free Autodesk account. Make sure you're a student. Make sure you're not paying for a pro version. And make sure you're at least 14 years of age on the calendar on that. And then you're going to get this thing called a dashboard. And I'm going to log in over here. All right, let me pause that for a second. When you're doing it, here's some of my designs. You can tell I've been doing a lot playing with Batman things. I'm actually, right now I have a long print going on. I'm going to make a copy of that so we can start covering it. All right, Riley, Garen, I'm assuming you guys are raising your hand to tell me that you've already logged in, you're set. So if so, go ahead. Garen, make sure I see you at the end of class, okay? It's good stuff. Don't worry. All right. Let me know, Nicholas, once you've created your account on TinkerCad, raise your hand. All right, good. Excellent, guys. All right, now let's just lay out the features up here, and we've got the trials, but right here is your dashboard, okay? You have features, which will come up and it'll talk about it. So you can import, now you can import 2-degree and 3-degree shapes into TinkerCad. You can use this for laser cutter. All right. So that's one thing I want you to say, and it's pretty fast. I don't know about Lightning. Sounds like they're marketing people. All right. Now, the other thing I would say, so you have that, you have Learn, and we're going to go to that in a minute. And it's going to talk to you about different TinkerCad lessons. And then a gallery where you can go out and find everything. Castle of Time Wasting, a minifigure, amazing clamps. You can just, there's endless things. And later on, we'll go on Thingiverse, We'll show you that. All right. And here's our blog. All right. All right. So now what I want you to see, oops, don't want to do that. Then I go back up here for the form on that. So I'm gonna put everybody's hands down. We got a question here. Let me see what that is. Oh, okay, Garen. Well, if you leave early, make sure you get into me. Oh, that's not good. My recording just died. Yeah, that's great. Well, we'll use the we'll use the GoToWebinar software this time then. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go into learn. Now, you're going to take a lesson. For some of you particularly have not been here, I'm going to walk you through it on how to do it, and I want to go through everything. But then I really encourage everybody to go ahead and take a lesson. And just as we just had the architectural contest or the siege engine contest, we're going to probably most likely end up by the end pick up some kind of 3D printing contest thing. All right, and also we'll make it so you can see your stuff print from here. You've got a gallery. You can copy and tinker about anything other people make. Go ahead and modify it and change it. And I think the more you use it, like anything else, the better you'll get with it. So let's go in here. Let's just say we're going into features. All right, learn gallery. We got that. Let's go to this big manual here. All right. Here's my things. So here's your currently kind in. You can make projects that will actually include all designs. Here's lessons. Here's all the different ones I've done in the past. All right. So right here, you got all designs. Create a new design. This blue form comes out. All right. This is your work plane. You can change this work plane, but let's look at everything up here. First of all, let's look at this pull down menu under design. You've got new design. You can duplicate a design. So folks, if you build something, duplicate it and work on the duplication. So that way you don't mess something up you spent a lot of work on. Be ready to duplicate it, make copies of it. So that way if you start making some changes and you go, man, I don't like these changes, you can go back to your original. So that's an important problem. Here's the other thing you need, properties. They give you these funny names for it. I would go, I'd give it a name that really means something. Mr. D, example. Okay, save changes. So there I am, Mr. D, example. So I know what I've got. All right, I can spin things around here. I use that. I can also use my mouse. I can use the plus and minus up here. If I go over on this other side, you see the shapes? I can drag a cylinder over here. One of the very first things you do. So there's a cylinder. Now, let's talk about this. All right, before we talk about that, does anybody have a question what I've showed you so far? That we tend to go into design. There you have the properties. Properties, we can sign it. You can give it a name, and that's where you go. Also under design, this is really important. You can download for 3D printing, download a Minecraft, order a print, upload to Thingiverse. Notice though, you can't upload into here. I'll show you later where you do the uploads. It's a little bit kind of funky. It's there. Okay. And we okay with what I'm showing you so far, folks? All right. Any questions? All right. Well, I'm seeing nobody's got a question. Let's go on. So let's look at this orange deal here. The black one up here, which I turned red because I put my pointer on it, which will allow me to lift this whole object. Okay. And these corners will allow me to pull it out of shape. See? Now, if I want to pull to scale, watch what happens here. I'm going to hit Shift, and then I'm going to pull it out. Or I can push it back in. Can I get everybody to do that, please? Raise your hand once you've done it. Okay, Daniel's gotten on it. Nicholas gotten on it. Riley, Garen, stay with me, guys. All right, now, the next thing we're going to do here, here's a hint. For the guys who've done this in the past, I want you to watch this. Make sure, let me move my video over here. We're going to be looking, let me go up to here. Let me hide geometric. Up here it says helpers. That little part right there, helpers, see that? Pull the ruler down, little tip. I have found, I put the ruler over here somewhere. Now what this does is it allows me, by having that ruler, now I can type in a number there. So I can make that 18. And it'll be dead on accurate. Within tenths, and I usually snap the grid of a lot of times 0.1 millimeters. You can change that. You can change it back and forth. But if you can see that now, I can be very specific. So now I know I'm on the surface. I know it's 18 millimeters high, 1.8 centimeters tall. It's 24 by 26. If I get on this compass, I go to do that, it doesn't let me change the numbers. I need that compass, when I say compass, that ruler. So there it is. I have found this a really powerful tool to be using with this. Okay, let's look at some of the other things. Say you go to move this triangle out. All right, I think most people will figure this out pretty quickly, that swivels this around. And mine might be a little bit slower. All right, so it moved it. Let's put something on it so it's a little bit more obvious when we move it. Let's take the letter A. Okay, I'm going to move it. And in fact, I'm going to get rid of the ruler for right now. Okay, just hitting X. So here's my A. Now I'm going to switch it. Now watch. It's moving in big chunks this way. But if I can move mine out to the finer, I can get very 17, 18, 19, 20. So again, just move it farther out to get that more detailed move. You will find that will save you a lot of confusion. All right. Can I get everybody to do that for me? Go ahead, put the ruler out, get it to scale, switch it. So that A is 4. I only want it, 2 millimeters tall. I just type in 2 there. Boom, it's thinner. Tall height, that's thickness I just gave you. Height, I want it to be exactly 10. There it is. 12 this. I'm going to make this 12. I want exactly those things. All right. Practice that and let me know once you have it. Raise your hand once you've done that. All right. Got everybody doing that. Okay, let's look at putting a couple letters out. I want you to take some letters. All right, we're going to try doing some different things. I'm going to line the letters up here. I've got them over here. So I just got this whole group of letters. Now, ideally, you would put this on a plate. If you're going to print this out, you wouldn't, because they would be printed separately. I would put down, depending on your printer, they would be all separately. You would really, in the real world, you would go probably to your geometric shapes, pull out a box, shorten that box down to, say, 2 millimeters, stretch it out from 20 to, say, 60, and then I might lay my letters on top of that. All right, that's how you would go to print that out. But let's play, because I want to show you a couple things. So if I take this whole group of letters, I can go up to the top and I can group them. See how up at the here we have adjust and group. And then I can ungroup them. If I go to print something, make sure you've grouped them. Notice something else. When you group them, they're all the same color. Now, let's look at our adjust tools. There's some very cool ones. Let's go with a line. A line And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use my right mouse button and pull this down so you can look at it. I can decide how I'm going to line these. See how this one's down, that one's up? Watch when I click up there. So that one's there. Let's try down here. Well, why is that? The D should be, Let's try again. Let's do this. Oh, I know why. Hang on 1 second. Hang on. Let's ungroup them. Then let's do let's line that. All right, now let's try this. There we go. See how they change colors? I grouped them, which if you think about it, the group's not going to change then. And it highlighted. Let me see if I can get that to undo it. Watch when I do that with the adjust. Watch, everybody. Do a line. Make sure you've got, all right, so I go ahead and hit align, adjust, and I hit align up there. If I click over there, see how it moves the D and the AF that way? If I move to A, it shows you, hey, I'm going to move everything kind of like this. And if I go down there, the A, the D, the F is going to come down. And that's what it did. See? Needless to say, if you're layering things, you hit the right mouse button, I can line it up that way too. You got to be careful. Use this. Watch what it does. It'll bring everything to the center, which is great if you've got, say, let's pull this over here. You would do this. Let me pull this. Say I have that. I have the sphere on top of it, which, of course, it's going to be not obvious for me to put it over top of that. Let's put it right there. I'll pull it up a little bit. So if I highlight these, and then I hit adjust and align, well, I might say, hey, I want these all to be like that, in the center, just like that, or like this, or down here. It just ate the ball, okay? But this alignment is a good tool for getting everything centered. So let's look back at this one. Let me pull this back up. See, they're all aligned that way. Okay? And then we can do something like this. See how they're a different thickness? I group it all in there. I'm going to group it. And then we're going to make them all. Because I have the ruler going, I can set this at 16. Okay? And let's ungroup them. Back up to ungroup. And then I'm going to go back up to align. And watch what happens here. See? I just moved that A that way. Can I get everybody to practice that now for a few minutes? Okay, I'm putting everybody's hands down. Let me know once you've had a chance to try that. Try out the align tool, and then we're going to play with the mirror tool and do some different things there. I think you can see where we're going with the mirror tool. So I would do this in the real world. I want to find out what this one is. So that's 16. This one's 8. So I would just type 16 here. And then I'd have to align this back down. So I would take this. I would do align. And I would click down there. And there we go. I'm all lined up. Of course, I want to do orbit all the time. All right. Also, let me point something out. When you make stuff with your 3D printer, say I want that A up here. I'll lift it up here. So I'm going to lift it up. Then I'm going to slide it over. Right. And I can align this, so it's lined this way. Let's do that. Align. So I say, well, I want this centered right there. So now I'm centered right down there. And that's a lot of times what people do. Now what I'll do is I'll take this, right, and I'll push it into that. That's important when you 3D print because it's thick in there. It's really going to be part of this. It's not going to break off. And you might, let me go ahead and turn this over. See how far down it's really in the 3D print? Now I've done an extreme. You don't need to do it that much, but you need to do it. Don't just lay a letter or something on top, group it and say, well, I'm good to go. Notice when you group, they stay the same color. So that's a tip off. Different colors, unless you colored it after you grouped it. Okay, Nicholas, how are we coming on this? All right, excellent. Put your hands down. Now, so there we go. So everybody's got a hand on that. Now let's use this mirror tool. I'm gonna ungroup these so they're still ungrouped. Okay, so I can do things like this. I can take this object right there. I can go up to adjust, and I can hit mirror. All right, and watch when I do this, it flips the D that way. It flips the D back. Pardon me. I can do things like this, which up and down that way. So again, it's an interesting tool to use. Let's try this back. I don't like this. The minute you click off of it, you're kind of out of luck. Try it again. You got to, not on the black arrow, but on the red arrow there. There we go. And so then I can take this whole thing, go up there to adjust, select mirror. If I do that, it's going to go turn it that way. If I turn it this way, it turns it this way. Not surprisingly, I'll do the same thing on top here. Right now, it really doesn't change a whole lot there. So I find that I have to just play with it to see. All right. So that's the mirror tool. And that mirror tool, when we do some, if you just do some casting and molding, you want to do, sometimes you want to flip things so it'll work for cast and mold. Let me go up here with you. If you hold shift, it's like panning, like H in the other one. So if I do this, it turns normally. But if I hold the shift key, I can go up here. So then I can take my letters. I put one here, put one here, put one here. And I probably would have grouped them. I'm just so messing with this. But again, I'll just use my line. Go to adjust, go to line. Now it's going to adjust the whole thing. We don't want, I'm not crazy about that, to be honest with you. So here we go. There's 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and adjust line. And then so you can say, okay, I want them down there. So now there are lines on that. You could then center everything, which I didn't want to do that. But I might make this a group. I go here, oops, here, here. I got those three. I'm going to make those a group. If I'm not making the thing below it a group. See how they're different colors? Now I'm going to mark that. Now I'm going to do my adjust, do my line. Now I'm going to center it right along this. Make sure we, See, it's including this object there. We don't want to do that. Let me get back. Let's get rid of this. That might be messing me up a little bit. Oh, these are grouped. I'm gonna group that. That was my problem. Forgot what. Whoa, let's leave that all right there. So let's get this group, put it over the top of this. Then let's align that. And then kind of move this towards. And that's centered along the line. So that's centered now. And then you would go ahead and take this group and shove it. I'm going to shove it down a little bit. It's negative. It's underneath the red, so that's clearly too big. All right. So that's a lot of the important tools coming. We still have some more things we can do with this. Let me ask you a quick poll here. How's my pacing? Let me know how many people vote. Okay, good. 75 are okay with the pacing, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Share the result. Oops. Share the result. I'll hide it. All right. So that gave you. Now let's go over to this other side of this. So there's unjust. You know that. We talked about grouping. We've just done a line and mirrors. Now let's close this up. Now, if you go up to here, let's use this tool. This is a very important workspace tool. So let's say we want A. Let's say we're going to delete A off here. Let's say I wanted A on the front of this. All right. I would use this workspace tool. I can get this by either doing it that way, clicking up here, but if possible, I always like to know shortcut key. So I'm going to hit D, W, and then see how it comes over to the face of this? Now the whole thing's here. Now when I bring a letter out, it will fit on the front of this. See that? Now all I have to do is click W over somewhere like this, and it'll go back to what it was in a free space. Let's say if I didn't do that, watch if I wanted to put B up there. It won't go there. I can get B up on this plane. That's where it's. I move it over here, right? But I can't get it on the side. So if I want something on the side, say I turn around, I want to put a letter on the other side of this. I need to hit D for W. That's up here where it says helper shapes. Hit W. Wait till that turns on its side. They used to not have this, which made it kind of hard to see what you were doing. All right, there you go. And then I can put a letter. For that monitor, I can do a symbol. Down here, they have all kinds of choices. Numbers. I'm number one. Boom, there it is. And then I would tell you, I would push it in a little bit. So that way I know when I print it, it'll print. And just come down here, hit W again. And you're back to where you were. Can I get everybody to do that? Put a cylinder, drop letters from the different W's on that, please. Raise your hand once you've got it, guys. All right, Karen, I know you need to leave now. Um, touch base with me tomorrow or something. I've got some videos I'm interested in working with you on if you're interested. Let me show you up here. Whoops. Let's go back over here. Sorry, my webinar software is confusing the issue here a little bit for me. Here's different shapes. You can also make shape generators. You can go into TinkerCad and import shapes. And we're going to learn about using Inkscape. It's like Corel Draw, and they use special kind of graphics that we can take the file from. You can import that to generate your shapes. All right. And so don't be, this is a cool tool. I'm using, right now I'm making Batman logos doing that. Okay. All right. Let me know once you're set here. So we go to the next part of this. Raise your hand once you're set, guys. All right. Now, I would tell you, I would work on a shape for down here, new shape generator, because it would be cool to say you developed a shape that everybody's using on TinkerCad. Let's talk about holes for the new boy. I almost jumped that. Let's talk about this. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to hit delete here. All right, so I'm taking this up here. So say I go over to shapes, go back up here to shapes. I'm going to make this. I'm going to put it right on there. If I make that a hole, it looks like that's a hole, right? Let's change. I'm going to change the scale of this shift. I'll drive it back. Whoops. I'll drive it back over once again. I'm going to put it right there. I'll put it down a little bit. Then I group the whole thing. Watch what it does. I didn't mean to group that letter, but we'll just group it anyways. It creates a hole in there. How cool is that? And you can do things like this. You can take this. All right, let's try this. I'm going to take this. I'm going to put the, let me go ahead and turn this around a little bit. Okay, I'm going to hit W, put it on the side. Then I'm going to take this roof right here. I could have put it on the top, I guess. I'm making this harder than it is. I'm going to take it right over here like this. Let's pull this over this way. All right, so now I'm going to take this. See that little dot? Hit shift. I'm going to shrink it down. I'm pushing it farther down. I could have done this from the top, so I made this a little bit harder than it needed to be. Let's go ahead. Whoa. Now, when I make this a group right here, make that a hole. Oh, made the whole thing a hole. Did not want to do that. Make this a hole right here. Then make this a group. Not surprisingly, I'll put a hole through there. So it's a great way to bore out holes in what you're trying to do. And it also makes it much visually easier to see. All right. Okay. So why don't you try that for me, please? Go ahead and try it, guys. Cut some holes in it. All right, you got that. So that was the hole generator. That was up here. You go to letters now, numbers, you can do symbols. So I get you at those points. And if you put the cross back in there, again, you can make, if you use that ruler, you can really, I'm right-clicking to get around here. Shift so I can pan it. So if I'm using this, I would use my ruler right here. And now I get all dimensions on things immediately. All right? Does that make sense? Okay, so let's look at lessons. And so I've showed you the basics. So I'm going to go back to the designs. And when you go to design, let's go back in while we just tinker this. Let me show you before we jump out of that. Right here, you can download for 3D prints. All right? If you go in there, you're going to tinker it. Not surprisingly, private, or you can make it public so everybody can see it. You can also download this from Minecraft. Okay? People will comment. They usually allow, if it's public, they allow. You're usually saying, hey, people, you can copy this and modify it and change it. All right? So their blog, we've been doing it, and their galleries where we cover Let's Go to Learn. And I really would just really suggest that you go through go these basic lessons through, say, the money clip would be a good start. Then after that, select each one of these. There's a bat button, as in Batman, skull button. There's all these different things you can make. So pick one of these things that you would like to just make. You don't have to do them at all. They'll start teaching you the better you're going to get at this. But you can tell from this, I've done all these, and I continue. And I went back and, like I said, spent several hours this week. So the time we have left, Riley, you've done a lot of this. Hopefully you learned a few things today that you didn't know how to do before. But everybody else, stay on and start working these lessons for the next 10 minutes, okay? I'll be here, but let's just have you stay on for the lessons. Fair enough? And if you have questions, ask me. I'm going to wait right here, and I may even build one for a little bit while I'm waiting on you. I'll probably stop recording now because people don't want to watch a video but me just sitting here and nothing really happening. But I will stay on for you folks so I can answer a question. Okay, Nicholas? Okay, Daniel? Raleigh? Yeah, I'm going to stop recording this.